It is 6:30, and we are back for Chambers Insight into the economic impact of the coronavirus. And impact is happening. It's good to see you again, Chris. How have you been?
Fantastic, Joe. It's great to see you, and great to see the Catalyst. Keep on keeping on, trying to get the news out for us. But I can't believe you just said it's June 30th. Somehow, half of the year just went by, and it's pretty remarkable. But June 30th also is a big day for a lot of the different deadlines. So, of the different relief efforts. So I want to talk a little bit about June 30th. But when you said it, it almost seemed like it couldn't be there already. So we have lived a different life. Let me get right into it, buddy, because I got so much to talk about today. Because we haven't been together for a while, and there is so much mixed messaging out there. You can look at it half empty or half full, Joe, and I'm going to look at it half full. But there's a lot of things we have to look at to make sure that we keep it half full. Okay, so if you don't mind, I'll start with the numbers, and then I'll walk through it, and let's talk a little bit about it as I go through it this time, because it's pretty remarkable what we're all witnessing in our community right now. So, Joe, you and I know this scorecard, and we know that green is good, and we see a lot of red. And the two gates that you and I had been monitoring since April 6th, I think we started this, was just how do we look at our weekly percent positive cases and daily average. This number was supposed to be under 6%, and this number had been as low as 12 in the past. So now we are seeing numbers, as we all know, where our weekly percent positive is over 10%. So it's over 11%. Even at the national level, they said 10% was a warning sign, and now we're over 11%. So we are in a danger zone, and you can see how our daily average caseload continues to rise. And this, again, is the chart. The safe pelican is where all the different markers of our life have been. The April 9th is when we were at the peak. The May 4th is when we started phase one. And here's where people are talking, Joe, is I wonder if we waited. See, we were down to 19 back then. People talked about flattening the curve. We thought we had done it. What I guess we've all learned from the different experts now is if we would have just kept going from 19 down to 1 or 2, we might have beat this, but we didn't. So we got it up to a number that was healthy enough. So when we did phase 2, it just did what every other state that opened phase 2 has done right now in our country, which is just multiplied. And you can see how we continue. I wish there was one of these that would decrease in size, but you can see how we just continue as a community to take on more and more cases here. And as you and I have done on a daily basis, is just look at that daily positive. They just posted yesterday's numbers again, and we're at 14%. So you can see literally the huge number of people that are being positive for this. And this is actually for the state of Florida. I have one for Pinellas County as well. But I wanted to show you that we are completely overwhelmed by this. And the best news, though, of this for us is yes, it's everywhere, and everybody should be being safe. You shouldn't be in crowds. You shouldn't be unmasked. There's no reason for you to be doing anything that is not social distancing. But the good news is our hospital system, while it's strained and every employee of a hospital does not want you to go out and do anything, we still have beds. We don't have a lot of them, but we still have beds and we still have care. So it's not completely at the end of our rope. But if we don't begin to really take it seriously, you're going to see us run out of beds. You see these numbers where our ICU beds now are 20%, 21% of our take. And you and I remember when that was less than 5%. So for people who think that it's not sick people aren't getting sick, 1 out of 10 folks who get it go into the ICU here in Pinellas County. And you saw those numbers of how many people are getting sick. So you can only do the math and realize that we're not done yet. And so we're so excited. The county and the city is all aligned in wearing the masks. I see it more and more. We have had discussions about it. But what we are doing it as well. We have our St. Pete Navigators providing those for you, for every business if they need them. So if you're a business who needs some help, both for the relief efforts and the reopen efforts, we have St. Pete Navigators. Call the St. Pete Greenhouse. Contact the chamber. We can get you these, and part of it is we've delivered thousands and thousands of free masks to members and businesses in this community to support them, and they're all free for our businesses to keep them going. I wanted to also show one thing to you, Joe, is while we think it's terrible, and it is, There are people that are dying today. There are people that are unemployed today. There are people that are hungry today. So this is not anything to look at in a positive way. But I just wanted to show you the rest of the state. And could you imagine being in Orlando County right now? I mean, look in that Orlando region we've talked about as one of our peer sets. While we're suffering from a 13% unemployment, look at some of these numbers in Orlando. A third of their people are unemployed right now in one county alone. So talk about a hospitality industry that has just been crushed and continues to be crushed. That is bad news. So you can see in the top 10 counties, Pinellas County has not even hit the top 10. So there are folks that aren't as diversified as us in Florida that are hurting tremendously. The other thing I wanted to make sure I told you, Joe, and I know we've talked about this, but you and I were saying, man, if we did this right and we got back to business by July 1st, we would see probably a 2% decrease, but we could see up to 8% if we're not back full freight by July 1st. Tomorrow's July 1st, Joe, and what I really want to make sure people understand is I just talked to the economists again this week, and they are projecting that we're going to see some type of decrease in our GDP over 2%, closer to these larger numbers. And you can see we've just plotted the 2008 recession, the one back in 82, and then you can see really what happened during the Great Depression. So 29% GDP growth compared to anywhere from 2 to 8. So it's not terrible, but it's certainly something worse than any generation that you and I have seen. And then the final piece of this is, and why I want to talk about relief and reopen efforts, because we're going to have to do this with COVID, but you see what we're up against. Our economy is going to be different. This is by Dr. Rajiv Dhawan, and he is like the rock star of the forecasting world out of Georgia State University. And this is his best guess right now of when we get back to full amount of jobs. And you can see how our economy has taken the hit, and he sees it a long run. So you and I have talked about this, Joe. What happens when you're faced with this is you have to start really rethinking how you do things. Finally, since I haven't seen you in a while, I wanted to make sure that people are aware of some things that are happening. Please, because I really believe our businesses are going to be facing this for the next 6 months, Joe, I think we got to make sure that every business gets the resources they need or they might need going forward. Fighting Chances just opened back up. $4,000 for brick and mortar businesses, including those who may be at some of those co-working spaces in our community. So you should be applying today, get that in, and $2,000 for home businesses. Please know you're going to need these resources going forward. The Pinellas CARES Act is the last day you can still apply today. So please get those in. They are going to reopen theirs as well with some nudging from all of us as well. They've almost put in $12 million. The Fighting Chances put almost in $5 million. So you're talking about $17 million going towards our small businesses right now. And finally, today's the last day for the PPP program as well. That is the national program. I put up on the screen for everybody just some of the changes that have constantly occurring that our members are keeping us up to date with. But my thought for you all is if you have not done PPP yet and you think you can qualify, I would certainly go ahead and do that today. I do believe that we are going to be in it for a longer haul than we thought we were going to. So all these relief efforts really are required going forward. And then a couple things you and I are working on. I hear now we've got some money on the line for our mask competition. Is that correct?
Yeah, a couple of the St. Petersburg group partners have kicked in $1,000 to give to the winner, and we're also going to purchase some local gift certificates, and so that prize pool will continue to grow. Again, the biggest prize is helping us reduce the spread and the actual public service of the PSA. But it doesn't hurt that there's some money to throw in the mix as well.
Yeah, so if you're watching this and you're creative, your staff's creative, your children are creative, and you want to put something together to show Pinellas County how you remember your mask, please do so. It'll make us all feel good, but also there's some money on the line for you. And Joe, thank you to the St. Pete group for stepping up and help put some reward money on that as well. That's really cool of your organization to do so. And so my final message is wear it, continue to wear it, get used to it. As I said early, like I think I said on May 1st, have as many masks as you do underwear because you're just going to need them. And that's the life we're going to live, and we're going to move forward. But we're going to redefine St. Pete every day. And that's what we're doing. Man, I had a chance, Joe, to go down to the pier yesterday for a ribbon cutting on the Tampa Bay Watch. That's recreating what St. Pete can be. Have you had a chance to be down there yet?
Yeah, I walk down there most mornings, and I've been keeping an eye on the progress. It's great. It's just nice to know it's back, and it's an anchor point, and it makes me feel great to walk by it every morning.
Right. So everybody should check their calendars. Monday at 5 o'clock is when it'll be open for everybody. We ask you to take care and pace yourself, because we're not having a big gala event. We had one planned, but we're not going to do that now. We're going to do it safe. But those are the kind of positive things that are going on in our community that we're going to focus on.
One of the important things, I always talk about perspective, because as you mentioned, this is going to be a bigger haul, a longer haul than we thought it was going to be. And so, people were going into, that sort of 3 month or 2 or 3 month lockdown. Kids are home from school, jobs are on hold. And there was a certain, expectation that at some point we were told we are going to be able to come out of it and things are going to get back to normal. And so people sort of set that, as here's what I'm going to hold on for. And then we're going to open back up again. And then everybody kind of cut loose a little bit. And, as we see now, it's you talked about the ICU stat, and that was the intensive care beds. That was our most promising stat. But just make sure you're weighing up what we're actually saying there. Think about if we said you could go do this sport, but don't worry, we've got lots of intensive care units available, right? And so when you see it as a stat on a page, and you see these numbers going up, it's hard to connect it to actually laying in an intensive care bed, not being able to breathe, right? So just you have to reset your mindset that this is a pandemic. This is, and it is life-threatening to many people. We had a 22-year-old die in the last week from it. And obviously some people can go through it and be asymptomatic too. So to me, I'm not really interested in taking that chance. But I know for our mental health and our ability to get through this together, it is going to be important to just really take a breath and reset and understand that the rules are changing. And it's, if you found yourself going down of, I just can hold on for this long and then it's going to be okay, and now you're not there, realize that can tax you, and it's going to be hard to reset back into probably having to lock down again or clamping down again. But you'll be happier the more you can actually dig into that and face that and process that and be prepared for it.
Yeah, boy, Joe, that you nailed it. 'Cause I really think that's what we all have to talk about. Is this new effort? This is not a short-term thing anymore. So what happens when they move the goalpost on everybody? You can throw your hands up in defeat and be fatal, or you can say, okay, I have to figure out now my new path again, right? Just as we did 90 days ago or 100 days ago. And that's okay, but it stresses people out. And finding the new path is what our chamber, what you want to do, what we're all going to do together in this community. We're going to find that together. Yep. So let's do that. So one of the guys that I've been playing with for quite a few years now, and he always thinks about how St. Pete can get better, is John Barquette Realty. Let's bring him in and see how he processes all this information. And
welcome, John.
Hey, how are you, fellas?
John, did you think we forgot about you? We were gone for a little while. So.
It's all good.
I got rambly about just the numbers and, just making sure that we're doing the right thing for everybody. But how is Barquette Realty doing through this whole effort?
Well, it's like everybody else, you need to adapt, but we've got an amazing team, and you guys have done a great job in helping with guidance on the St. Pete Way. And it's, as an essential business, we've just had to structure it in such a way that our team and people are safe and our clients are safe, and we've been able to do that.
Great. So tell people a little bit about the scope of your business and yourself personally. Just tell people a little bit about yourself.
Sure thing. I've been here in St. Pete for 20, going on 21 years. Couldn't imagine living anywhere else. Absolutely love St. Pete. I actually had grown up in New England. Spent 10 years in New York City, went to New York University and got my master's in real estate valuation and analysis in a market where all there is redevelopment. There is no just new development, which is what I had come into originally in this market. That being said, over the last 20 years, I started out from an analytical background, and our practice has evolved into a full-service boutique brokerage. So we are assisting both on the commercial and residential sides of the house And that's really where our market has evolved, especially in the last 5 years with redevelopment. There's definitely a serious need for not just my skill set, but the skill set of my team.
Gotcha. And I heard a rumor about you that you're a pretty nice guy, John. So I don't want to hope I don't blow your cover for you on this, but you own some real estate that people lease from. Some of the great old St. Pete buildings and stuff that we all know, and some of our great local businesses inside of them. You offered them some relief when all this happened. Can you just talk a little bit about that?
We did. I do. I'm blessed to own some buildings here in some tertiary thoroughfares that I really believe in. It's my belief that in order for the city to continue to grow smarter, if you will, it can't just be on Central Avenue and Beach Drive. We need to support our neighborhoods, and if our neighborhoods are going to expand, whether that's MLK, 16th Street, and I do that on my own investments. I also treat my clients' properties like they were my own investments, and we've been really stretching the boundaries of St. Pete. We've been helping to push into MLK South and offer services that really haven't been there for decades, really. So we've been working with our tenants. We feel that basically we're partners with our tenants. So we want them obviously to be successful and be here for the long haul. I would say that I get a lot of phone calls from people outside of our market that are looking to open new businesses in our market. More so on the retail side, where they say, "Well, we heard you're the retail specialist here in St. Pete," and I always try and take a step back and say I don't really consider myself a retail leasing specialist. And they'll always stop and say, "Well, what do you mean? Do I have the wrong guy?" And I say, we really don't. We're not just leasing to put bodies in for landlords. We're curating. We're creating something that's synergistic, and we've done it where our offices are here. Really, it's been over the last 13 years, turn an area that was really overlooked into something that's a great little support system for historic Uptown and beyond.
You really have taken those, just cool, funky old buildings and those cool, funky places of St. Pete and brought to life. But, during this first part of the, COVID, you helped your businesses by making sure, hey, if they couldn't pay their rent on time, you didn't kick them out. You were a very generous landlord too, but that allowed St. Pete to be St. Pete because you knew what kind of businesses those people do and the heartbeat of the St. community that you generated. So I appreciate that. So let me talk to you about a little bit about just that, because 2 years ago, you and I were in heated meetings with people saying it's not going to be able to be affordable for folks to have cool, funky St. Pete anymore, and we're being outpriced. And so how do you respond now? What has this done to us, or if anything, or?
I think everybody's grown, in all honesty. I really feel that not every, what it's taught people is that, not in order to grow, we do need to continue to evolve and grow with everything that's happening. There are ways to, grow smartly and, not get too dense and keep what we love about St. Pete, which is the funky soul and character. Like this building that I'm standing in right now was probably the biggest dive bar in all of St. Pete. This used to be Molly's Bar. And part of it is, if you are able to salvage, people want soul. So whether it's a brick column or it's 100-year-old louvered glass that you work back into the mix, it's what our local businesses really want. But if you're doing it in areas, it doesn't need to be Central Avenue and it doesn't need to be Beach Drive. I think that what people need to understand is that there are other tertiary thoroughfares that people can do really well. And it's a matrix. It's a balance. If you're not paying, an exorbitant amount of rent and your rent is 45% of what you would pay on Central Avenue, you should be able to, build a clientele and either move a business off of Central Avenue or start a new business and be successful. And to answer your previous question, not only have I been working with my clients or my tenants, and I'm still working with them. I've offered deferment with, partial repayment plans where they're not paying back until the end of 2020. Those payment plans carry all the way through the end of the year. I also worked with all of my tenants and helped them navigate the PPP process because it's overwhelming. A lot of people, I deal with banks every day, but my clients don't. So there's things that we could do as landlords to reach out and offer deferment and some type of forgiveness. It's easier to do in my buildings where I'm in control of that than some buildings where we manage. But even on those, we've been able to offer significant deferment to tenants.
So is it a time now for, if a business is thinking about real estate, is it a good time to say, hey man, I want to go do something? I mean, like, how are you advising clients about real estate today? Is it still unknown? Is it a buy market? Is it a sell market? what are you telling people?
It's interesting. On the residential side of the house, there's a whole lot of people that have been renters for a long time that are in, some type of structured housing, whether it's a multi-floored condo or apartment, that really feel for like the first time in a lot of instances that this is a time to buy. Mortgage rates are extremely low. The struggle is you need to do two things. You need to be with somebody who can help you navigate the debt process, and you need to be able to source property because there's just not a lot of inventory right now on that front. On the commercial side, it's a great time for, I have a lot of law firms, CPAs that are looking to buy property that were just being priced out before, where a lot of these owner-occupied opportunities are coming available, where their potential income stream for a landlord was there and may or may not be there. There are opportunities for people to invest in their businesses. A lot of the banks, there's a lot of SBA loans that are available right now for small business. And long-term, really, the institutional money hasn't stopped looking at St. Petersburg. We're going to continue to move forward. And I think the city's done a really good job of listening to all of us, to listening to its residents, to listening to the chamber, to listening to developers, to listening to tenants, to really start to anyway tweak, whether it's tweaking the downtown core zoning or to look to the future on parking requirements or, the retail corridor initiatives to make sure that we don't end up with dark spots. It's been a breath of fresh air. Granted, I've been here 20 years, but I think what I've gotten more out of the last, say, 6 or 7 years of being extremely active in a lot of organizations, including, which I'm really thankful to be a voting member for public policy. I feel like we live in a community where your voice is heard. And that being said, I've been on the other side of some issues and some projects that I wasn't fully behind, but at the end of the day, you can't complain. You need to be a voice, you need to be a part of the solution and roll up your sleeves and see what you can do to better it. And I will say that in that regard, the city has stepped to the plate.
I appreciate your participation in this as well. And because when people get involved, I heard two things from you. First is your participation in this, your engagement. And I want to go back to that. But I really want to jump on the notion that I think you just led us to the notion that while we're in this, while we're worried about just our health and safety, it is a opportunity to really rethink about how we thought about developing St. Pete, though, too, right? I mean, because you just said there's a lot of people that can do things that wouldn't have been able to do them before. So shouldn't we stimulate that market while we can, right? And so being very creative with what you've been trying to do is just see things differently as they go forward. It sounds like it might be a time for really rethinking how we develop.
I couldn't agree with you more. We need to be really smart about how everything rolls out from a density perspective. I mean, this will have direct impact on everything that we're looking at, whether it's the innovation district and density and zoning, trop site redevelopment plans. Everything is going to have impact and spill out. And that goes to what we were talking about with growing my little district as an example. when I started buying on MLK and between 5th and 7th Avenues, people thought I was nuts 15 years ago. But if you really look at the growth and you study the zoning, and now with what the city's doing to make changes, there's things that we can do to be smart about development without stifling it as well. And I would be concerned in a time like right now that we don't do anything to also scare away potential development and institutional investment, because if that stops, we're not going to grow. I hate to use the term grow or die, but you do need to keep somewhat pushing the ball forward.
And you're seeing those institutional investors still buzzing you, so that's a good sign, right?
I am. There's, right now, one of the things that had happened is land values had gotten extremely high, so financial feasibility was starting to get to a teetering point. There are some unknowns. Office is a big unknown right now. We're not quite sure, how much absorption. What is the future office going to look like at this point? So projects that were slated to be mixed use, multifamily with spec office, some people are pulling back on the office, which to me is of concern. We need new office space in St. Pete. If you go to other municipalities, other major cities, we haven't built a new office building in St. Petersburg since the 1980s. So, and one of the groups that built a lot of the office buildings in St. Pete has just come back in Lincoln Property Group, which is a great sign. I would like to continue to see us push the ball forward, because from a sustainability perspective, we still need jobs at the end of the day. And if we're going to be able to meet up to the billing of the less than parking requirements in the downtown core, it needs to be a livable city. It's not a livable city if people still have to drive to get to their place of work. So we need more office space, and that'll come partly in the Trop site, but there needs to be more. When I say teetering on financial feasibility, I mean that construction costs were at an all-time high. What's happening right now, and institutional investors and developers are just getting the handle on it, is that we're starting to see gaps in pipeline for vertical developers, which is actually a good thing from a financial feasibility perspective. Land values are holding right now, which is also a good sign for us. So if costs come down to build and land costs remain the same, and rental levels, which had finally gotten to a place of financial feasibility, hold true, I think we'll start to see some office development here.
Beautiful. Great. And then before we wrap up, because you get engaged, because you know this community and all the people, you have some pet projects, but one pretty important to all of us, because it's pretty visible, is seeing some unused, actually ugly land, or unsafe, if nothing else. And right in our downtown, right in front of all of us, is a big piece of land, and you're helping do something pretty special with it. Go ahead and tout yourself a little bit about what you saw.
I'm super excited about it. It's roughly 2 acres of unused land underneath I-375 between 4th Avenue North and 5th Avenue North and MLK to the west. And we've been working with local stakeholders in the city we're going on 2 years at this point. But and a lot of it was really bouncing ideas to see what we could do with it. We started with the notion of a dog park. The city came back to us with Parks and Rec and steered that a little bit to make it into a park that's dog friendly but not fenced in, because we didn't have enough area in the sun for sod renourishment. The local businesses, we are in desperate need of parking right now as well. And then we wanted to bring in a public art component. So we've really kind of touched on everything right now. We've just gotten appropriations for $450,000, and it's a split between the Weeki Wachee Fund and parking revenue. So it didn't touch the city's budget. The park is going to be beautiful. It's on the northern end of the property. So the part that is not covered by I-375 is going to be a public park. There's going to be 47 paved parking spaces, of which I believe 7 or 8 are dedicated to the park. The rest will be split between hourly available to the public, and the city's also going to offer spaces up to businesses on a month, businesses or residents on a monthly level, or rental status. So I couldn't be more excited about working with the city. It's a rarity that you can get two completely different departments within the city to work together. They've all said it's a first for all of them. And it's something that's like a pilot program. We've got a lot of land that the city basically has a long-term lease with DOT that's unused. And it's a way to connect bifurcated neighborhoods. Historic Uptown is completely cut off from downtown by this really, really dark and dangerous block. And what we're talking about for the next phase is doing public art and doing something similar to the Deuces project, where we have downlit public art on the 7 columns that are on the east side of MLK and the flat concrete dark walls under the overpass, and downlight all that and open it up. And right now we've got our bike paths go through there. People don't like to travel there after dark, and I don't really blame them. The other thing is, if you think about it, it's the gateway to our downtown. The majority of people that are coming into St. Pete, if they're going to an event, in the Edge District, as an example, get off that left-hand exit, the Trop exit, and they come down to that traffic light, and the first thing they see is Blythe. It's a really ugly fence. It's not used. So I couldn't be more happy with the project. It's just a way to really connect bifurcated neighborhoods, and use public art as a way to really bridge the gap.
Well, and well done, because I remember when you showed it to me, and I ride my bike by there all the time, and we've talked about it. It's just a sight for sore eyes, and a guy like you who's just willing to keep swinging, willing to keep bringing people together. And like you said, you're okay if you don't win every one of them, but you just want to work on it together, and that's what you've done. And for this community, that's what we're going to need to do, John. So get yourself rested, because we're not done yet. We're about to get into the next part of what St. Pete needs to be, and good guys like you and others are going to be part of it. So we appreciate you keeping us going, keeping our businesses funky and great, and our community the same way. And we'll see you soon as we get going again. Okay.
Chris, thank you guys both very much. I appreciate the opportunity, and I really do appreciate the chamber and all you guys do for the city. So
well done. All right. Thank you guys.